is why I shifted my business model, which originally I was a freelancer, where I was just doing that on the side, where I would just go to businesses, I'll be like, hey, I want a promo video for my website, or I want this, or I want that. And there were cool videos. But the biggest thing that I kept noticing was that these clients they weren't repeating, which is normal because it was just one-off videos.
Yeah.
But the biggest reason why I felt like they weren't repeating was because I don't think they were getting an ROI. And that when I would go look to see how they used that video, it was a lot of times used incorrectly. They put it on Instagram in a weird format. They had no call to
Oh, I've
action.
wasted
You know,
thousands.
exactly. They didn't put it. They didn't run an ad on it, or they didn't put it on their website correctly, or they uploaded it poor quality, and that kind of really like messed with me a lot because I was like, I felt like I was being misrepresented as well. So then
Yeah.
I shifted over from not being an order taker, but being more of a consultant. So then we come in and we say, hey, what do you think you need? We'll talk it out, and then we'll tell you what you actually need. And then from there, we'll then take care of everything for you so you don't mess it up.
Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur Podcast, where business success meets personal purpose. Here we empower entrepreneurs to strike that perfect balance between massive growth and unwavering values. Dive deep into strategies, inspirations, and stories that ensure you set your foundation in faith and don't compromise your family on your ascent to the top. Welcome to the Maverick Entrepreneur. What's up, everybody? We are excited to have this good-looking chap with me, a legend, and we're going to deep dive into the world of digital media and pretty much marketing, scaling the digital world out there. Here's the truth. I'm an old dude. I'm a brick and mortar guy. I've had many successful businesses in the brick and mortar space, but we're in a new world where, you know, some girl can do an influencer video on TikTok and then be worth 5 million in 6 months, which is driving me crazy because I'm trying to figure out the value some of these people are bringing. And I'm not very good at dancing, and my rapping is very white. So I decided to bring on an expert in this field, and but I don't want it to. I don't want it to be. This isn't going to be beige, everybody, because I'm going to ask all the questions that I know all my friends out there have, but they're too nice to ask these questions. So I figure since we have a influencer / expert in this field, why don't we ask the right questions? So this is Santi, and owns a company called Optic Element, which is next level. And for those of you that know him, I know you love him. He has raving fans out there. For those of you who don't know him, you're welcome in advance. So Santi, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, man. Appreciate the invite, man. Love the content you've been doing. Love the podcast that you obviously have, and obviously we have a part to play in, and I'm glad you want me to be part of that. But thank you for inviting me.
Oh man, I mean, I've been wanting to have you since day one, but you know what? We're finally here.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for you. So I know Santi through church, and I want to get right into. First of all, I guess I want you to tell us before I get right into it, just to give context. What is your company all about?
Yeah.
And I know you are just a hungry learner. I don't know if you've ever taken Strength Finders, but I could tell you got learner in there somewhere because I always notice the books that you have, the courses you're taking. You are hungry to learn from the best, be around the best.
Yeah.
I see the investments you make, and it's not like you're shortchanging anything. What's your company about? What are you passionate about? And how did you get to this place? Why?
Yeah, it's a great question. So overall, Optic Element, we started in 2022, roughly when I got out of the Marine Corps.
Oh wait,
Yeah.
you were in the Marine Corps.
Yeah. It was.
Shout
Yeah.
out, my dad was a Marine. But what did you do in the Marine Corps?
Yeah, so I was a marksmanship instructor in the Marine Corps, so I taught people how to shoot rifles and pistols. So it was really.
So you're a deadly weapon.
Yeah, it's honestly one of the. It's funny because I grew up not around guns at all. My mom was so against them because she grew up in a really violent environment. So when I was like born, obviously she was like very anti that. And fast forward, I joined the Marine Corps, and all I do is work with weapons, and it's so funny. And I fell in love with shooting and teaching. So that's kind of where my love for that kind of really stemmed from. And It was a great experience. I'm glad I did it. It was a good stepping stone for my business, and even like in today, with my team, my clients, it's a lot of teaching, and even like doing podcasts or even doing events. Like there's always teaching happening, and I feel like that's something that I got to really hone in the skill set of teaching that
That's
I get to
cool.
translate into today. So,
Now I
but
know
yeah.
why you want to hit targets all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's crazy how a lot of life translates, with shooting.
So
It's
true.
really interesting. But yeah, so I was in the Marine Corps, and then I got out, and then I joined. Pretty much, I joined a network marketing company while I was in the Marine Corps, so I got really into selling. And it's funny how I was doing freelancing stuff for a long time. I did video stuff for a while, but as a hobby. And when I did network marketing, the biggest thing that I hated was I didn't want to be the guy that like everybody hates or everybody like like it's just that really cringy person who calling their grandma to join, things like that. So I was like, how can I build this business without coming off like that? And I built my own personal brand to attract people rather than me having to call. So I did that, and I built a pretty big business doing that. Was like the youngest earner in their company and got like to go on the trips and stuff like that. That company ended up going through some weird stuff, and then I lost everything, which was fine because I pivoted anyways into this business where I merged my love for business and with creativity together. And so now what we do is we help people build their brand. We help them become, the authority in their space, and we help them leverage social media primarily as of right now, because that's what's popping right now. But
Yeah.
ultimately, from a foundational base, we help people leverage visuals, which can be photos, graphics, videos, websites, landing pages are all visuals. Visuals are, 90% of our mind, actually allocates to visuals being a main decision maker to how we purchase stuff, how we, join groups or so on and so
Yeah.
forth. So I feel like that's how that we really founded that. And right now it's mainly focused on social media because that's where everybody's attention is. But over time that may change. But that's pretty much what we do in a summary format.
What impressed me about most, and I'm not trying to be offensive for all you creatives out there,
Mhm.
uh, don't don't get all wound up over this. But what I will say is that you're one of the first creatives that gets business.
Yeah.
So many creatives, they sit down, and I'm thinking the whole time, you're good at
Mhm.
your niche, but you don't get bit. And it's why so many people that start off in this business, I
Yeah.
don't see them around
That's
2
very
years
true.
later
Mhm.
because they're great at filming, they're
Mhm.
great at thing, but they just an ego can get you all. You think you can do it all. But I see so much talent
Mhm.
in this field, but yet they're creatives without the business sense. And then they don't want to take on a business partner. So
Mhm.
they're just trying to like look at somebody else and how to mimic that. But you were the first guy that I could see new business, new sales, you
Mhm.
understand marketing, you understand branding, and you put
Yeah.
it together from the filter of an entrepreneur, which is
Mhm.
what I believe sets you apart. And
Mm.
no disrespect to any other creatives, but it's kind of funny why I always tell people, man, you have a gift. Why don't you go work for somebody that
Yeah.
has the business sense?
That's very true. It's
But it's
hard.
amazing how many people don't wanna go work for somebody else because they think they can do it,
Mhm.
and then once they are, on the struggle bus long enough and they get a
Mhm.
girlfriend or a fiance or they get married or have a
Yeah.
kid they can't afford, they're like, "Okay."
That's true. Yeah. It's actually funny you say that because we've had a lot of creatives come to us where they've tried to start their own business and they've usually fail and it's it's hard. I mean I think it's almost polarizing for creatives to be structured and really into the business side just because creatives naturally are very disorganized. And it helps with the way they think creatively.
So
But
are healers.
yeah.
Chiropractors, massage therapists, acupuncturists, they could
Mm-hmm.
have a gift of healing. They
Mm-hmm.
suck at business.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, it's like almost like it's very hard to do both. I feel like for me, I naturally I think at my core I'm more of a creative, but being in the Marine Corps and learning system structures and things like that really helped me more systemize. And then
Get some discipline.
yeah, exactly. And then going into then starting a business on the network marketing side, I got to learn and see how it is to train people, lead people, recruit people, and then see what doesn't work too. And then also having the opportunity of filming other entrepreneurs, I was able to then learn from them. So I feel like the business side was for sure not like doesn't come natural to me. It's something that I had to learn. But I'm obsessed with learning. So it kind of weaved together really nicely. But I think naturally creatives are like that. I mean, I have a lot of creatives who work for me, which I love. And they're a different breed. You have to really, the way you train them, talk to them, set systems for them. It's almost like it's very interesting, but I enjoy it. You know what I mean? But I do see that a lot. I do see a lot of creatives that do struggle with the business side, because they're more, again, like in the moment kind of people is usually what it seems like. But yeah, I definitely notice the same thing for sure.
Yeah, and so I appreciate it. I almost wanted to do this. I had this dream one night, and I don't know why I had this dream. I had a dream that because I have a lot of creatives at church
Hmm.
and a lot of people in this space, and I was like, I had this dream where it was you
Hmm.
and about 10 other dudes on this panel,
Hmm.
and I gave you all an assignment,
Hmm.
and I gave this kind of blueprint of how I wanted this thing to happen,
Hmm.
and then whoever could, deliver the
Mm,
goods in a certain amount of time,
that's
the
cool.
way that I like, meaning they were listening,
Hmm.
they could pick up my heart, they could see the business aspect of it,
Hmm.
they could know that I'm trying to get an ROI on this stuff,
Hmm.
not just do a cool video.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's
Hmm.
like so many times people want to sell me on a cool video. I'm like, yeah, how is that going to
Yeah.
turn into helping me the return on the investment?
Yeah.
Because when
Hmm.
you're paying for this stuff, it's not cheap. Like
Yeah, it's
I got to
true.
get something out of
A
this,
hundred
you
percent.
know,
Yeah.
and then go almost like American Idol for the social
Yeah.
media digital world.
Yeah, that'd
And
be
then
cool.
it was funny. I just saw you kind of outpacing everybody. So I don't know if
That's
it was a
cool.
prophetic dream or just a dream to like,
I receive it, man. I think that's funny you say it too, because that's actually one of the main reasons why I shifted my business model, which originally I was a freelancer, where I was just doing that on the side, where I would just go to businesses, I'd be like, hey, I want a promo video for my website, or I want this, or I want that, and there were cool videos. But the biggest thing that I kept noticing was that these clients weren't they weren't repeating, which is normal because it was just one-off videos.
yeah,
But the biggest reason why I felt like they weren't repeating was because I don't think they were getting an ROI. And then when I would go look to see how they use that video, it was a lot of times used incorrectly. They put it on Instagram in a weird format. They had no call to
oh, I've
action.
wasted
The
thousands.
exactly, they didn't put it. They didn't run an ad on it, or they didn't put it on their website correctly, or they uploaded it at poor quality, and that kind of really like messed with me a lot, because I was like, I felt like I was being misrepresented as well. So then
Yeah.
I shifted over from not being an order taker, but being more of a consultant. So then we come in and we say, hey, what do you think you need? We'll talk it out, and then we'll tell you what you actually need. And
Yeah.
then from there, we'll then take care of everything for you so you don't mess it up, pretty much. And then that's kind of how we started to create our packages, where we're, pretty much all inclusive. We take care of everything for our clients, because a lot of them, business owners don't have the time, and then they'll pay for the video, but then they'll just throw it up, or they'll give it to someone to throw it up online, and it's, again, not executed correctly, and they don't get the ROI, and then they don't repeat as a client. So for us, we were like, how do we solve that problem? And we went into then creating like a business model that does everything for them. We do the consulting, similar when you go to a doctor. You
Yeah.
don't tell them, hey, I have a bad back, so I need you to prescribe me XYZ. You talk to them, and they say, hey, let's evaluate it. Where are the pain points at? And then here are some things that you could do. Here's some, exercises you can work on. So similar to that, we do that same process where they come in, they say, hey, these are our pain points, and we'll say, hey, what are you trying to achieve? And then we reverse engineer a strategy around that.
I know you're so good at it too, because everyone will come in and say, and by the way, some of you are judging me already. My old stuff, judge me all you want, but I will say this: done beats perfect.
That's
And
true.
a lot of people get stuck in analysis paralysis, so they do
Hmm.
nothing because they don't know.
Yeah.
And I started to get jaded because oh, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that. I mean, I have so many empty promises, and in the beginning, you're just naive to it all, but. And by no means am I the master at this point, because you can't be a master of everything.
It's
You
true.
know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Hmm.
And I don't want to be mediocre, but I know enough to
Hmm.
know uh, what's good and what's not good, and,
Hmm.
and where the things are going. And there is some magic and some sauce and some strategy into it, which
Hmm.
I appreciate, because now you've just introduced me to that,
Hmm.
and we're gonna execute on that level. And so what I love about that all encompassing
Hmm.
strategy that you teach
Mhm.
is I'm just hey, let's film this, figure it out. That's how I started.
Yeah.
But as we've built rapport and trust,
Mhm.
you have shown me that's okay,
Mhm.
but here's something better. And
Mhm.
it's not an upsell. It's like you genuinely care about my success and stuff gets done. So
Mhm.
you start laying out a strategy. We just had a session recently
Mhm.
on talking about long term. And we got to play the long play.
Yep.
There's none of this
Mhm.
0 to hero in 30
Yeah.
days.
That's true, yeah.
And my
100%.
biggest thing is now figuring out, oh, I got to just start teaching my courses. I mean, this whole thing
Mhm.
started, I asked you to come film,
Yeah.
my goal setting.
Yeah, it's so funny, yeah.
Help me figure out how to do goal setting Zoom because I got people around the world that
Yeah.
keep hitting me up and driving me crazy because they can't fly to San Diego, which I
Yeah.
get. And I didn't know there was a way until you taught me the way, which
Yeah.
helped open up the world of teaching goal setting
Mhm.
to
Yeah.
the masses. Now we're going to figure out how to make that
Yeah.
a whole class online so people don't feel like they got to wait till December every year.
That's true,
They
yeah.
could take that. But what would you say now?
Mhm.
Where are trends going? If you had to say, if you're gonna have a business,
Mhm.
not just brick and mortar or even brick and mortar,
Mhm.
uh, what do you say some fundamental things that every entrepreneur needs in order to scale, in order to capture everything out there that's going on? What's some advice or things that we absolutely have to be doing in
Yeah.
order to level up our business?
So I think for social media, I think it's really a lot of people I think overcomplicate it where they think that, it's this new thing that they have to do. But social media is very congruent with business. Same thing how you don't expect to, make millions overnight. It takes a
Yeah.
while. You have to build trust. Same thing with social media. A lot of it is how do you translate that into social media as a business owner? So I think that people think that they're always focusing on what other people are doing, trying to copy them, which there isn't anything wrong with that completely. But if you're only doing that, then you're not yourself following a strategy. You're just kind of picking and choosing what you think is good. So the first thing is as a business owner, go into social media with a business owner mentality. Like figure out, okay, who are you trying to speak to?
Yeah.
That's the number one. Like who is it that you're trying to communicate with? Because then that's going to tailor around the type of content that you make.
What's
Because
your avatar?
yeah, exactly. Who's your avatar? Why are you, trying to help them? What kind of value can you actually bring to them? And then everything that you create is going to be around that and their pain points, their fears, what they dream about, all that stuff. And then from there, you have to then cultivate content that is pretty much around that in different formats. The model that we like to use is pretty much you want to inform them, entertain them, educate them, and motivate them. So those are the biggest things you want to do is whether you're sharing information where you're like, hey, this is how you do XYZ, or if you're entertaining them where you're like day in the life of a CEO, or if you're, let's say trying to educate them on, let's say new tax laws that are being passed, whatever it is that you're doing, and then you motivate them, whether it's, selling the vacation of like, whether it's you show them your lifestyle, things like that. And you use that, and you kind of do that depending on your avatar. Some people like more entertainment or more education than others. So you kind of mix around, play around with that. And then from there on the back end side, you need to create some type of way to capture that attention that you're going to gain and convert that into dollars. I think that's one of the biggest things that a lot of business owners are missing right now is that they're like, okay, content, I need to focus on content. And then they do that or they'll invest some money in it, but then them themselves don't focus on converting that attention into dollars. Because it's not like people are going to come to you and say, hey, take my money right away. Like that is a level that will be achieved. Like the Grant Cardones, the Alex Hormozis, those guys have been around for a while and they pump out content. They put like 20, like 30 grand into content a month.
Wow.
And these guys obviously are at that level now where like Grant Cardone can literally say, hey, I want to raise $1 million and he'll do it in like less than 2 minutes, but as a regular business owner who hasn't been on social media at all, that takes time to build there. So you have to then, put systems in place similar how you would do in your business to then go out and cash in on that attention. So the attention will come. But if you can't cash in on it, it doesn't always really matter. You know what I mean? So that's the biggest thing is those three things is understand who you're speaking to and then craft an offer and content around that, create that content consistently, and then find a way to be able to then, whether, it's DM, not marketing or whether it's, cold calling, whatever it is that now that you're having this attention and this reputation you're building, you have to be aggressive on building on it. You know what I mean? Especially like if I like if people who do billboards, they'll do cold calls and you're like, hey, you probably see my billboards, all around where I'm a real estate agent or whatever, they'll do cold calls referencing their reputation.
Yeah.
Similar to that, right? You're like, hey, you've been engaging on my content, seeing that you're, XYZ, you're looking to buy a house, you're looking to sell a house, whatever. And you're building, you're cashing in on that rapport and that relationship that you're building online. So those are the biggest things. I think it's the closing the loop on that, that some people miss. And then when they miss that, then they're like, I'm doing all this content, but I'm not really seeing anything, and it is, one thing that a lot of people are starting to figure out, because a lot of times, you want to make sure that you're not being super salesy, which some people are afraid of doing online. But at the end of the day, like, similar to business, if you're confident in your product, you have no problem sharing it and selling it. So I think that it is something that, a lot of business owners are struggling with on the social media side, especially because some guys are more face-to-face kind of guys too. But it's actually something that we're working on right now in our company to start fulfilling that for clients. Similar how we spoke about earlier, where we would do the videos and then we're like, hey, these guys are posting it incorrectly, they're not promoting it right. And then we started taking over that. Similar to that, we're seeing similar issues with some of our clients on that end. So we're trying to figure out a way where we can at least take over that part to the, not fully where we become their sales team, but to the point where we just set it up for them to tee up and they can go ahead and make the sale kind of thing.
Yeah, it's so hard. I'm in a conundrum.
Mm-hmm.
So when I first started this, back in the day, probably, 2021, I think is where I knew that I needed to level up my game.
Mm-hmm.
I brought in somebody. They're like, dude, you gotta show them your life. And they knew me. They're like, Dr. Matt, your life's inspiring. You gotta show it. So I started doing these videos, and it didn't deep down resonate with me, because I don't like to show off, and those guys that do actually bug me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I go, there's got to be more guys like me out there that just want to stay humble and crush.
Yeah.
And I know when some people that know me, like, you're not humble, but I am. But there's also that, that confidence.
Mm-hmm.
But my pastor called me,
Mm-hmm.
and he goes, Dr. Matt, you're a pastor. One, that's not your vibe. When I know you, you don't brag about your stuff. You don't show it off. Like, this doesn't resonate.
Yeah.
And here's the truth. As a pastor, I'm just calling you. That's not a good vibe. Because I was making it like, yo, look at me. Check out my Porsche. Check out my house. I was in my old house still. So, and he called me, and he's just like, I don't want to lose you to what the world calls you to be.
Yeah.
And so I knew this formula, like, this guy was giving me, and it was more that braggadocious, inspire people. One, it didn't resonate with me, but he was telling me it doesn't really matter if it resonates with you. This is what's working. And so I was already, a contradiction. And here I am, I'm preaching all the time. The level of contradictions in your life will be the level of destruction in your life. And I literally just prayed, like, crap, this guy's giving me a formula how to be successful, yet it doesn't resonate with me. And then I prayed, I said, man, I need a sign. And then, you never want your pastor to call you and call you out. But he called me, and pretty much exactly what I was saying. Like, he's like, this isn't you. It's not cool. And plus, you're a pastor at our church. I don't even feel comfortable with it. And I said, you're right. I totally ate crow, fell on my sword. And he goes, well, then do it God's way. Like, find somebody that wants to listen to you, that is willing. It might take longer. And I said, yeah, you're right. So, I'm not going around with, cameras saying, walk with me through my, what was it, MTV Cribs. It's like, I guess the people, I'm going to have to do it more organically than in your face. And there's more people out there. The more, like, a couple of my buddies have called me and said, hey, dude, I really appreciate what you're doing with your podcast and some of the stuff. I really resonate with you on this, because they are feeling the same way. And they were going down that and feeling awkward. Like, one guy called me, he goes, hey, bro, I'm so appreciated you don't have your wife in a bathing suit and you guys are walking holding hands. In San Diego Beach. He goes, I've been so nervous waiting for that one to show up. I'm like, bro, I'm not going to use my wife as my bait, or I'm not going to be like getting out of my car, walking into my, and I know that is a formula out there, because I've had multiple people tell me. It's just not my formula.
That's true.
So I appreciate that you've been able to work with that, because I'm sure there's a faster road to success in the world's view. But here's the string. I'm not trying to attract the world.
That's true. Yeah, that's
How
very true.
can we that don't want to be the
Hmm.
braggadocious influencer slash guy or girl
Hmm.
still feel like we can get our value out there to help the world?
Yeah.
Because there are a lot of people that are watching this that maybe they don't even live the flash lifestyle.
Hmm.
One of my most well-to-do, patients, maybe a billionaire.
Hmm.
I don't know, but he is worth a ton. We have the same attorney, we have the same
Hmm.
tax accountant. He's very humble, has a plane, but you never know. Shows up to my office to get adjusted in the same whooped up Ford truck. I think it's he loves it. It's like an 88 Ford truck. And and then when he comes on another car, he just has a nice
Hmm.
electric car, but doesn't show off nothing. And he's
Yeah.
just always done it. And how about those people? How do we speak to those people? Can you help them
Hmm.
make a difference in the social media atmosphere,
Yeah.
digital world, I guess?
Yeah. No. So there's a couple things to unpack with that question. So the first part of it is, so yes, there is a fast way to leverage vehicles, homes, lifestyle, because it's like low hanging fruit. But like you said earlier, you will attract the people that only care about that stuff.
Yeah.
So that's not may not be your targeted audience.
Not that
So
it's
yeah,
shallow,
exactly.
but it's shallow.
Yeah, but also too, yeah, I think that a lot of people fall into the conception that they think that they have to do those things because they truly don't believe that their life or who they are is enough. You know what I mean? They think that they have to do all these things, right? For example, like there's, like Andrew Huberman, Alex Hermosi, these big names that have podcasts, that have personal brands, and they don't do any of that.
See,
They don't show vehicles. They
gives
just
me hope.
they just do what they're good at, and they do it really well, and they do it consistently. And I think so the first part is, number one is knowing that you don't have to do that. I don't like to do that with our clients because one, it's a cookie cutter formula that may work, but I think it's short lived. I think after a while, it's just kind of like, okay, this is like this content is kind of annoying. You know what I mean? I think I've seen a lot of creators who've done that, and everybody can rent a car nowadays and pretend that they're living this
Turo,
lifestyle. So exactly right. So
Airbnb.
so I think people, even like audiences now, are starting to catch on to that. So I think right now is probably one of the best times to be more genuine to yourself. I think the best thing to realize is you being who you are is your creative advantage, especially in social media. I think everybody's trying so hard to be other people, whether it's these guys in Lambos or these guys doing this, or even like trying to be like, I see this with a lot of real estate agents. They try to you have the same haircut, they drive the same car, they wear the same suit, and they do the same thing and they say the same stuff, right? Rather than trying to focus on who they are as a person and
Yeah.
how you do that. And you got to think about it backwards too. Is that think of all the business relationships you have. Think of all the actual regular relationships you have. They're friends with you and they do business with you because of who you are,
Yeah.
right? Not because of the car that you drive or the house that you live in. That's like that's like maybe has maybe a little bit of an influence on the decision, but it doesn't have the majority. The majority is who you are. So
So how do you teach who you are through the digital world? Like,
yeah. So I always tell people the first thing to do when we do our strategy calls is we first identify who is it, like what do they stand for? What do they want to represent? And how does that bridge a gap between who they're trying to speak to? After we establish that, we move into, okay, what is your unique personality? And a lot of times, if I don't know them, I always tell them to go to your closest 5 friends and family members and even business partners and say, hey, like, why do you like me? Like, why do you do business with me? And a lot of those things will be the same. They'll say like, "Oh, because you're just straight up. You tell how it is," or because whatever. You always, come through, or you add a lot of value, or whatever the reasons are. That's why people like you, and that's your creative advantage. And then from there, you take that information, and then you can put it into, how do I do that times 10 on social media?
so good.
So we always say, like, when you're on camera, you want to be you dipped in you sauce.
What about people that don't feel confident behind the camera?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean
So what do you do?
that's hard because I mean, if you're doing it on your own, it's very hard. For us, we have a team where they'll help coach you through that. We come up with ways that are help them ease up a little bit of the nervousness that comes with being on camera. Whether it's we formalize different strategies of shooting, whether it's just asking questions, like kind of like similar like this, or we write scripts out for them and just break it up into like bite
So you believe
sizes.
anybody could do it?
100%, anybody can do it.
Anybody can do it.
Yeah, 100%, anyone can do it. Because at the end of the day, too, when we edit it, your mistakes are not going to be shown.
Yeah.
So
No one knows I'm
yeah.
300 pounds right now. Your skinny filter is
Yeah,
amazing.
exactly.
I'm
Exactly,
totally
right?
pumped.
And then even with the edits too, like, if you just say one line and then you wait and then you say the next line, obviously it feels weird doing it. But then when we edit it, there's no, as long as you have like the right inflection in your voice and you're, projecting yourself well, no one's gonna notice it was
So
edited,
you know
right?
how to do the magic to make
Yeah.
anyone that has a message okay. It's not
Yeah.
like you have to hire an actor.
Yeah, I
I
know,
get
right?
this. I said somebody who's like, well, I think, dude, look at me. I've never been behind a camera. I'm going to have to hire an actor. It's going to be so much money. I'm like, no, I think there's ways to do it.
Yeah, no, 100, and I think people they want you. They want you as a
Yeah.
person. Like they want to see that. And the thing is that like there's so many people. There's like 7 billion people in this world right now. There's at least 1 million people who care about what you do in your life specifically to you. And then
Now I
there's
feel bad I don't have a million
yeah,
followers.
and then on top of that, there's usually at least another million who will hate what you do, but still follow and watch your stuff because
Yeah.
they want to hit on you. So it's just about the matter of being consistent and being, just being in people's faces, in the way that's more genuine to you. But it's definitely doable. But there is a big belief system there. A lot of
Yeah.
people don't believe that they can, like, especially because you live your life every day, that you kind of may think that it's just normal to you at this point. But there's a lot of people who would be super interested in to see what it's like to, be a pastor of a church, run multiple businesses, have a family, be engaged with that family, and also, be able to then do other ventures, right? Like that's something that's extremely interesting. Not everybody is doing that. That's something that people would want a point of view on. So that's like extremely, even for me, like I even sometimes forget that people would care about my life, and I'm like, oh well, nobody cares about this. But it's like, the fact that we opened up a studio and just 2 years of doing business, that I run a team. I'm like, I have to remember that people actually care to see that stuff too. And
Yeah.
and again, even for me, I fall into that trap too, where I'm like, oh well, people wouldn't care about this, and it's
Yeah.
just because I see it every day and I do it every day that it's just normal to me. But other people are actually interested in it. So
Yeah, we can never forget where we came from.
mhm,
And it was interesting. We just did a team meeting yesterday at church, and we are just talking about how you confront and do all this kind of stuff.
mhm,
I can't tell you how many text messages or people that were reaching out to me afterwards going, oh my gosh. Like people solving problems right afterwards. I had
yeah,
3 people walk up and just like, hey, will you forgive me? I'm like, of course, And some of the other pastors were like, oh my gosh. That was so fundamental of just
mhm,
how I live my life that I didn't realize that a lot of people may not know
yeah,
that information. And it
that's
was a
very true.
good check in my spirit to never forget the fundamentals that
Mhm,
help us get to where we get. And if we don't teach the fundamentals, whether it's business, whether it's
mhm,
in coaching or relationships or marriage or with kids, the fundamentals are what Michael Jordan made him the best.
yeah,
He's the GOAT because he always said, I always
mhm,
practice the fundamentals
yep,
because without the fundamentals, you're nothing. And that Kobe picked up on the same thing.
yeah,
And
100%,
so it's a good reminder to stick to the fundamentals that got us there. And so
yeah,
what would you say? What are the trends right now,
mhm.
2024? What's trending that we should be looking at?
Yeah, so the biggest thing to think about first is that I think technology and social media is moving faster than it's ever have. I mean,
Oh,
it kind of just it's compounding over time. So I think trends are coming and going really quickly. But what I'm noticing at least right now is there's a lot of I think kind of how we were talking about people in the past where they would show off their Lamborghinis and all that stuff, and that was really cool back then. Right now, I think it's not that cool, but some people still
no,
like
my
it,
5-year-old just said, Dad, why don't you have a Lamborghini? And I said, I don't want a Lamborghini. And he goes, well, Dad, all the cool people on YouTube have Lamborghinis. I
Oh my
said,
gosh.
you don't think I'm cool? And he goes, yeah, I think you're cool, but you don't have a Lamborghini. I said,
Oh my
what if I don't
gosh.
like a Lamborghini? And he goes, well, Dad, you need a Lamborghini. I said, where is he getting this? And you know where he's
Yeah.
getting it? I got YouTube on my TV,
Oh
and
yeah, yeah.
they go over there and they want to, I let them watch documentaries or builder stuff. There's these 2 little dudes that dig in the dirt all the time, and they just build these
I've
insane.
seen those. Yeah, those are those
Oh, I
you
mean,
can
hour.
definitely
I
watch
come
them.
up like, what are you guys watching? I was just sitting there. And next thing I know, it's 40 minutes later. I'm like, that was the most
Yeah.
fascinating two dudes digging I've ever seen into like this dirt fort that I want to
Yeah.
go build. But they watch it, but then in between the
Mhm.
little commercial breaks, there's
Yeah.
some little influencer on YouTube.
Yeah.
And I noticed they all got Lambos. So
Yeah.
now my kid set a bar for me
To get a Lambo,
to get
yeah.
a Lambo. It's like,
Yeah, no, that's funny. I think a lot of people that are, again, usually attracted to that are usually, more either on the younger side or haven't really done business for that long, I think.
yeah,
Because even like for business owners that are more seasoned, like they don't really care about that stuff anymore. Like
yeah.
even, I mean, if you look, it's the same thing where like, how a lot of new like millionaires, like especially in the cultural side of like rap, all wear these diamond chains, all these big things that are like super showy. But then all the billionaires in the same industry, don't do any of that. They just wear regular clothes, or at least like it's just a simple T-shirt. And it's, I think, just kind of seeing who you want to talk to. So if you want to talk to those people, it's great content to make. For us, we target more of the people who are more mature in business because we want to do business with them. And but ultimately, I think within social media, I think Instagram was one of those platforms that was very show off your life kind of thing. And then video got introduced to that, and then the videos were cool. But then I think when TikTok came in, it showed a different perspective on people's lives where it was more raw. I think it was more like the videos weren't super like well polished out. It was more people's like lives, POV kind of stuff. And then I think Instagram obviously adopted the reels.
What's POV mean?
POV, point of view. So like,
Point of
so
view.
like for example, if you say like like point of view life of a CEO running a multi-million dollar company, and then you kind of show them like what does that look like? Like how many calls are you making a day? Like things like that. That's like a lot of the things that people want to see. I think that's where we're moving into right now. I think the polished stuff is not really like appetizing anymore. I think it's almost like when you have too much sugar. It's like, yeah, it looks really nice, but it's almost like it's too much, and you're like, I don't want anymore. And then you want like some actual like some good like nutrition. So it's like, what does that look like? Like raw, vulnerable content where it's like, hey, running a multi-million dollar company isn't what you think it is. It's not like this lavish life. 90% of it is working, and then 10% of it is actually enjoying it, right? Things like that. People want that now, I think, because they've been so overtapped with this like look at me lifestyle. And I think that look at me lifestyle has a part to play. I think it's good to do maybe at least 10% of that once in a while to just show people, hey, like I'm actually doing it. But I feel like what people really care about and what they actually like follow is the story, right? Think about it. Everybody loves the underdog. Everybody loves seeing what people are doing. Especially if you see a lot of the creators nowadays that are coming up, a lot of them are coming up on challenges where they're like, hey, I'm going to build a 6-figure business in 6 months, and I'm going to take you along the journey. And then every day they make a video about how today we made $10,000, tomorrow,
Yeah.
things like that. And you're like invested. You're like, oh, wow, like, is he going to make it? Is he not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and then they add stakes to that. And that's what people want nowadays.
It's the new soap opera.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, even right now too, like TV is dying. Social media is where it's at. Like, I think, honestly, I can't tell you the last time I actually watched TV. I'm either on like YouTube is primarily the platform that I like to, consume content from, or social media. But and if I do watch a show or TV, it's on Netflix.
Yeah.
But for the most part, people are watching YouTube. Like they want to see like more of the raw stuff. I mean, it's funny. There's this stat that they did with this. I forget what show it was, but they put like, I think in each episode they put like multiple millions of dollars in each episode just to get maybe like 500, maybe like 500,000 of viewers per episode. And then for like Mr. Beast, he puts like maybe the same amount of money, maybe a little bit more, and gets 10 times the traction on viewers and
Wow.
attention just from
How did he
putting
get
less.
so big?
He's insane. That guy's he's really good at what he does. He's mastered the
How
art
did
of.
he start though?
He actually he has a lot of good podcasts out there, but he talks about how he says his biggest thing is like just make 100 videos. Doesn't matter if they're great or they're not. Just do it. Nobody's gonna care in the beginning. Like nobody cares about the first couple of videos you make. He says if you can stick to do 100 videos, like after you make 100, then we can talk about leveling up and doing all these things and so on and so forth. But
So he's just
that's his strategy.
consistent.
He's very
get
consistent.
it out.
Yeah, 100%. He has a crazy story. He was
My
going.
kids even know about Mr.
Yeah,
Beast.
yeah. He's for sure dominating the space in attention right now. And he's got like multiple different channels as well, and he's killing it. But the thing, what he does is not it's not duplicatable, which is insane
Yeah.
because they don't script out. It's a lot of it is kind of like they kind of get the idea going and then they put millions of dollars into the
Did he
idea.
fill up like some thing with cement?
Yeah, he does a lot of
A
crazy stuff.
Mercedes?
Yeah,
It
yeah, he
was
does
a
stuff like that. Yeah, which is again really
G
attention
wagon.
grabbing. Yeah,
Fills it with cement just to see how much weight it could carry.
yeah, literally, yeah. And a lot of the money he makes from YouTube goes back into his YouTube videos, which is, I think very genius because now he has multiple channels. I think some of his channels he's sold off. And he does extremely, extremely well. He's got like Mr. Beast bars, which are like, like they're just chocolate bars. So he's able to leverage his brand to do a lot of stuff like that.
Wow.
But he's a great example that he was extremely consistent. He's at the level he's at now, but if you look at his older videos, like, they weren't great. And it's everybody's story. Nobody starts off like just like that. And what he did was he mastered the art of attention. And like even with their thumbnails, which is the graphic that you click on, they spent like thousands of dollars on just making hundreds of those. They make 100 for one video, and then they test them to see which one has the biggest conversion.
Wow.
And so like breaks it down to a science, but he has
So
a
let me
lot.
tell you,
Yeah.
as an entrepreneur, that's stressful to hear. Like
Yeah.
testing,
Hmm.
a lot of my friends will do a couple things and they'll test them.
Yeah.
Like, do you test for people?
Hmm.
Because I know a lot of my friends, I don't got time to test stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
what am I going
100%.
to
Yeah.
test? I'm trying to test my kids.
Yeah, no, we do. So what we do is we kind of find out what's a good strategy that's a good baseline. And then as we grow with you and we see the opportunity within your industry, we'll say, hey, let's test certain things out like this. So we throw them into the mix. So we don't make it where everything we do is hinged on testing, because then that's a high risk. But we have a solid foundation, and then we throw in some testing in there just once in a while. We'll say, hey, let's test this out. Like this video did really well. Let's try to redo it in this format and test it out. So we bring the ideas of testing stuff. And whether the client wants to execute on them is up to them because it's their brand. But we're your eyes and brain on that aspect where we're like, you don't have to worry about that. We'll bring that to you. And it just also depends on, again, what industry you're in, what you're trying to do. We're never like, we always tell people we're never going to make you, do some weird TikTok dances. Like
Now, yeah, exactly. Here's my question.
Mhm.
People watch this around the country, and I have a couple guys in Australia. I
Nice.
had a bunch of people in Germany watching. It was pretty cool
Nice.
to get some texts. And do can someone work with you that lives somewhere else? Would they
Mhm.
need to find a videographer
Mhm.
and then you're the strategy guy? Or how do people, because it's so hard to know how to interview somebody.
Yeah.
Like everyone is like, I should show you my DMs. If
Mhm.
I don't get hit up 50 times a day on DMs for
Mhm.
someone's telling me they can do this to my social
Oh
media,
yeah.
they can make me better on Instagram. By the way,
Mhm.
my videos need this. By the
Yeah.
way, they
Yeah.
love my content, but they want to do
Yeah.
this. Everyone's got the funnel for this. How do you decipher
Mhm.
in a noisy world
Yeah.
what the heck I need?
So that's a great question because it's so funny because I get those DMs too, and I'm like, and I know that they did, like, you obviously didn't read or go through my content because you would know that I run an agency because they're
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
oh yeah, I could do your content, or hey, and it's so funny, but I think there is a lot of noise out there for sure. The biggest thing is figure out, who, similar how like you would do in business, who has what you want or who has something similar to that, and then just kind of follow that path, right? Where for us, like, I mean, that's why I build my brand and I invest in my brand because I know that when I go out and, network with business owners, that ultimately what they're going to do is they're going to look at my brand because they're going to be like, how am I going to have this guy help me with my brand if he's not doing anything with his?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest aspect that, when you look at
How do people work with you that don't live here?
Yeah, so for that, we have clients all over the U.S. And so there's a couple different ways. Like we do offer flying our team out and doing batch shooting, which is what we shoot a lot of content in 2 to 3 days. And then we also then help set up a camera in your office for you if you do a lot of Zoom calls, things that we can, we'll go over like what is it that you do? So what can we like have you record on your own? We can also teach you to record on your own. And then you just, we send the ideas over, you go ahead and execute them, send the videos over to us. Or we can also help implement a videographer into your business. And so what we do with that is we'll pretty much help find a videographer local to you. We'll vet them out, we'll train them up, and then we'll embed them into your business. You have to pay them on your own accord. But we make sure that they're aligned with our values and obviously our system. So that way it's smooth, and then we take care of the rest. So that's how we've done it. It just depends on on your ability. Like if you, sometimes people have like, hey, I have a cousin who works for me that doesn't really do anything that I can you teach them how to like, shoot? And a lot of times it's really basic content. We can teach them how to shoot. And so we we'll fly out, we'll set everything up for them, and then we'll teach them, train them. And then we just have like a quota. They have to send a certain amount of content monthly. And then we take care of that. We edit it, we post it for them, we do all that stuff. And then we just are consistent with strategy calls and stuff like that.
Yeah, my
So,
boy Weatherford, man, he has someone always with him.
hmm
Videos everywhere he goes. So funny. I tried that one day and the guy quit by 2 o'clock
yeah.
because he
Eh,
started with me at 4:30 in the morning, got my gym routine, got everything.
yeah,
2 o'clock, he goes, "Hey, I didn't know it was going to be so intense. I saw your
yeah.
afternoon schedule. I got to take a nap." I was like,
A nap. That's crazy.
"Bro, we're halfway through the day."
That's funny. Yeah, no, that's and it is also like pricey too to
Yeah.
have someone
Oh
full
yeah.
time. And so, I say there, there's a level to that. There's certain people who, sometimes think, oh, I need somebody with me at all times, which is not a bad idea. But I'm like, why invest into that right now if you can't even knock out regular pieces of content?
Exactly.
Start there. And then if you can get consistent on that, and you can, there's proof in the pudding where it's like people care about what you have to say, then you're like, maybe let's bring somebody on to be with me full time. And obviously, like, because it's all an investment. Similar with people who want to start content, they're like, oh, I want to buy all this crazy camera equipment. I'm like, well, if you can't even shoot content on your phone, then are you really going to actually shoot content when you
Yeah.
have all this, camera equipment here? So it's similar to that, is what we kind of gauge it on, and we help walk people through that. Because at the end of the day, like even when we sell what we do, I never sell people on a package that I don't think that they can handle. Even if I can convince them to do it, like I don't want to put somebody in a position where they feel overstretched capacity wise or financially. So we always talk about where they're at, and then what can they do, what can they commit to long term, and then how can we grow from there? Because I don't want to make you pay 20 grand a month for content, and then you're over here stressing because you can't produce that content, or pay for it. So it's like this. We're not doing it to make the money. We're doing it to grow you, because
Yeah.
ultimately that's what
Yeah.
makes us more money.
Yeah,
So.
I'm so pumped. So, I know as we land the plane here, this year at goal
Mhm.
setting, we're doing something we've never done.
Yeah.
I'm gonna typically run the morning like my normal goal setting,
Mhm.
but then I'm gonna do a VIP lunch,
Mm.
and you're gonna be one
Yeah.
of our guest breakouts. Because I really believe business people need to set aside the time. They
Yeah.
all say they're going to do it, but every time I meet with them, I was like, man, they got so overwhelmed with goal setting,
Yeah.
they never get to the nitty gritty. And so I'm going to have, we're going to teach one with finance, debt, how
Mhm.
to get out of debt, how to protect the debt. Then you're going to do one on all the marketing,
Mhm.
everything your agency does. You're going to talk about coming up with a
Yeah.
plan,
Mhm.
whether it's social media, whether it's content, whether it's digital, for every single person that
Mhm.
joins your section, which we've never done before.
Yeah.
And so we'll have a marketing breakout. So I'm so excited to hear
Yeah.
what you have, and I got to make sure they're all recorded,
Mhm. Yeah,
because
yeah.
people that aren't able to attend, we got to figure out how
Yeah.
they can get that media card. So that will be something we're super pumped with. We just moved it to November because
Mhm.
I really believe this year, I always do it in December,
Mhm.
and people are so overwhelmed with Christmas parties, everything. By January comes, they actually haven't figured out how to execute the blueprint because they
Mhm.
haven't even finished the blueprint. So I
Yeah.
figure we do it in mid-November.
Mhm.
We now have 6 weeks to get the blueprint for 2025 or whatever, the
Yeah.
next
I
year.
think it's so smart.
So I
Mhm.
think this year we're going to get the most traction we've ever got.
Yeah.
And I'm really pumped about your session.
Yeah, and I think branding is just, I think, one of the biggest, I think, especially right now, because we have the ability to do it. I
Got to be
think.
set apart.
Yeah, like I don't, I feel like everybody throws the word branding around a lot. But like back then, so a brand, what it does is really helps identify with someone's identity. So like the reason why you, for example, wear Lululemon or whatever you decide to
Viore, I
wear.
switched to Viore.
Okay, Viore,
Lulu went woke. I went,
yeah, exactly. But
you're a
even
joke.
like that too, like the reason
Yep.
why you're choosing not to,
Not to.
is because it doesn't align with your identity, right?
Nope.
So, and the reason why you go with other brands because they
Yep.
do align with your identity. Same
Yep.
thing, like, it's so funny when when people get, when people talk about like Android versus iPhone, when, a lot of iPhone users always bash Android users, and a lot of Android users get really upset. They get butthurt because it ties to their identity. And it's all, that's what makes branding so powerful, because it ties to identity, especially knowing like how belief systems tie to your identity and all these things. And it's really
So
intricate.
true.
And back in the day, the only like organizations that were able to brand themselves at that level that tied into identity were government institutions and religious institutions. Like now we have the internet where anybody like Nike, Apple, you, me, anybody can literally create the same type of brand that tie into people's
We should
identity.
do a whole session
You
on
know?
branding.
Yeah, it's
I
insane.
think we
Yeah.
could talk for an hour on branding.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. It's its
Yeah.
own beast for sure.
Because I think it's more and more important, and people don't know what they don't know,
Mhm.
and they just throw a brand together that they got on some online, like, I need branding 101.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that looks cool, but
Yeah.
it's not tied to their identity.
Yep.
And if it's
Mhm.
not tied to your identity, then you can't get your whole being into it.
Yeah, and then you're not gonna attract the right people. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? And then, or attract anybody at all, because then you look like you're just trying to.
And I
fake it.
used to be a big, it's funny you say Lulu. I used to be a huge Lulu fan,
Mhm.
but when they went
Yeah.
woke, I'm like, I can't support any of their values.
Yep.
I would have never walked in
Mm-hmm.
to, what is it, Vidori? How do you say it?
I think it's Fedora.
Viore,
Dio-
Vidori, Viora,
um,
whatever it is. I literally went in there going, oh, I was going to meet a birthday, and I saw the store. Everyone had, been talking about it.
Mhm.
And I was like, well, we'll see. They're going to have to win my business over. Even though I wasn't going to buy any more Lulu, I was like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
I want the customer experience
Mhm.
and the branding and everyone in there. There was a vibe.
Mm-hmm.
It was
Yeah.
so good. I just bought a windbreaker. But I'll never forget, I walked in, I got like 2 compliments, and then one of my
Yeah.
buddy goes, oh, you got to the other side, and I'm a loyalist.
Mhm.
Now, I'm just
Yeah.
like, dude, I'm going to deck my kids top to bottom. I'll get my wife,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So
It's funny that you say this. I mean, everybody walks around, even to like when you wake up, and the clothes you decide to put on is a representation of what you believe in and who you are as a person, whether you know it or not. And then there's people who are like, well, I'm not a brand person. I don't like to wear, Gucci or whatever, or Nike. And it's like, well, yeah, that is your brand then, that you are not a brand person.
that's your
And
brand.
it's like, doesn't matter. You can't escape it. Like it's everywhere. And that's how you're being
Yeah, I see
marketed.
the shoes you're wearing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you're going with the vibe.
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I'm very well aware of it. I'm like, yeah, like there's a brand that I personally love. It's called ASRV, which is like a tactical version of Lululemon, and it's like athleisure wear, and it's expensive. And I tell people it's pricey, but I don't care. I'll buy it anyways. And although it's not the logical decision to make, but I do it anyways. And it's because I love their brand. It's very it ties into my core values. It's very about like, it's very tactical, it's very urban, but it's also about like movement and motivation. And I love their brand. And I'll they can drop a pair of shorts for $200 and I'll buy it. And although it makes no sense, but I'll do it because I'm loyal to that brand, and they don't pay me at all. And that's the power of a brand. And you have that same power as a personal brand, or even if you build another brand where people will be loyal to you, if you build it right, and if you market people correctly. But that's
All
the
right,
power
we're
of
going to
it.
do part 2. Stay tuned. We're going to bring it back,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we will do branding. This is too good of a subject not to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So I want to wrap this one,
Mhm.
and because now I'm getting fired up about branding. So you guys wait and see when that one's coming. But this one was just the intro of how important it is to don't take yourself out of the game because you don't know.
Mhm.
You're gonna have to engage. You're gonna have to find the right people, and I know you can help them get there. And there's plenty of people. You can't help everybody,
Mhm.
and not everybody is going to be your avatar.
Yep.
But guess what? You're a great resource. I'm sure they're going to put their stuff all over here. You can find Optic Element.
Mhm.
And Santi, I appreciate you. Thanks for leading the way, and hopefully I'll be coachable. And thanks for jumping in on this podcast with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. We'll see you on the next episode.
I am a factor. Got a dream.